Hi, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is my 8th installment of my show, Conversations with Friends. Today, you get to meet a friend of mine. Her name is Deb. She is an artist and a really super person. I think you're going to love her. A fellow Cancer, as like myself. And I think that this is a real special conversation. So sit back and enjoy. And without further ado, my friend Deb. Hi, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And today we are having another Conversation with Friends show. Today is my 8th show. And today we talk to my friend Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Vic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Considering. So I met Deb a number of years ago at a mutual friend's house, the Cushings in Cohasset. Wonderful, wonderful people that have all kinds of amazing classes and gatherings at their house. Unfortunately, we can't do that right now. And this is how we have to gather virtually. But Deb is an artist, and she has a very interesting story. She is the owner of Laughing Water Design, and she's a Cancer, so that makes a lot of sense. And so she has been an artist for many, many years. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, or tell our friends out there a little bit about yourself, Deb?
Sure. Um, One of the first things that I think of when you say, I'm an artist is I remember being in the 6th grade and the teacher asked, that the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And at the time, I was very musical. I played the piano, but I was also into this art thing. And at the time, I was doing drawings of shoes and wedding dresses. Like that's what my whole world was about: shoes and wedding dresses. And so I said, well, I'm going to be an artist. and and I am. I remember the moment. It
Wow.
was really kind of cool that I was able to be that articulate about it. So anyway, I did go to art school, and I did a fine arts program at the Art Institute of Boston in the late 70s, a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And after I graduated from there, I went out into the world to try and support myself as an artist, and did the usual, restaurant jobs. But then I ended up working in the antique business.
Okay.
And a good friend of mine who's also a teacher was in the antique business at the time, and I sort of got connected into that. I learned an immense amount through that business, aesthetically. And so I sort of did a combination of that and other things until I'm going to say the mid 80s or so, mid to late 80s. And at that point, I had moved back to Boston, and I was living in Somerville. So I was doing the Cambridge thing, and the whole time I was doing all this other earning my living stuff. I was still an artist. I was always an artist, and so eventually I moved to Cohasset in 1990. And which I was thinking about this today. 1991, I think, was the last time that Saturn was in Aquarius. And that's when I started my decorative painting business.
All right.
And at the time, everybody wanted rag rolled walls and marbled pillars, and the faux painting thing was really coming on strong.
Right.
And I was kind of particularly suited to it. I had technical skills in painting. I had done varnish work and boats and houses and just general stuff, and I loved the technical end of painting business.
Right.
And so I I sort of fell into it. It was the right time, the right place to have that connection, and it really segued into my skills as a fine artist as
Right.
well.
Right.
So I have this one image I want to show you because I think this is really fun to see. This was my original logo, is this cool figure. Now, this came from, I adapted this from a 17th century playing card. And the playing cards had all different tradespeople depicted on them.
Right. Right.
So I saw this again and it was like, boom, I love that. That's me. So I sort of, redrew it, fixed it up, and that became my image, which I've
Uh-huh.
had for all these years. So, and it also reminds me a little bit of the Fool card in the tarot.
It does. It
Has
does.
that element of like, yeah, you're just gonna like walk right off the edge now. Okie dokie. I need to get a little dog in there.
Yeah.
So that would be fun. So anyway, I started doing this work, and I I've done it for all this time. It's basically been my bread and butter, and I'm still an artist all the way along and doing other things. But in some ways, it really it was an interesting development for me because I get to work on very large spaces,
Right.
and with color and texture, and which is my happy place. I love color. I love textures, creating, rooms, surroundings.
Environments, right? You love.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, exactly. So, and also to be able to use my painting skills to achieve that in some ways was, perfect. It was really perfect. Not, hard work and like
A lot of I noticed there's a ladder in that. So
a lot of ladders, a lot of
ladders.
And
Hey, I've painted my house on a ladder, and that was hard. I can't imagine doing like fine art on a ladder.
Right. And ceilings and things,
Yeah.
So basically, people commission me. They come and they say, well, I have this idea, so you kind of, that's where your intuitive senses come in a little bit. So you sort of, just figure out, okay, this is what I think this would be good for this person. And so that's the basis of that.
You know what it sounds like to me, and Michael, my husband's an artist as well and a chef, but he has the ability to take an idea from somebody and then just run with it, right? And I think there's a way, what that energy is about is sort of getting into the flow of that and then letting the flow take you where it will, right? So and it sounds like even up to this point, there's always been that sort of background flow of artists while you're doing all these other things. And each one of those things sort of informs the art, making you, in a strange way, or maybe not a strange way, maybe this is how artists do it, richer through your experience, right? It's not just technical, it's not just, and of course there's that part, the more you do it, the better you get. But it's also being able to allow your life to inform your art and the way you do it, and how you do it.
Right, exactly. So that kind of brings me to the how the spiritual end of this gets incorporated.
Yeah.
And I'll go back again to when I was 16. And I was in high school and I was doing my art history classes. So that, I was doing my art thing because I was to be an artist, and there I was. So I lived in Waltham, and I used to get on the 77 bus and go into Cambridge to Harvard Square, which was the coolest place in the world.
Used to be.
Yeah, it used to be. It's very different now, but
yeah, it's very commercial now, but back then, yes.
Oh man, that was my happy place. Oops, that was my happy place.
Yes.
And so I used to go to the Harvard Coop, to the poster department up on the second floor.
Yep.
And, just walk around and look at all the posters. And I bought this poster one day of White Tara, who's a Tibetan goddess. And I had no idea who White Tara was, no clue, but I fell in love with her and I bought the poster. I still have her today. She's in the studio. I'd show her to you, but she's hanging up in the studio. And, you know, of course, my family was like, what's that? I don't know, but I love her and she's mine. And, you know, no
But
clue
what
whatsoever.
what religion did you grow up with?
I was Catholic. I went to Catholic
Oh,
school.
okay, yeah. White Tara would be like, why isn't the Virgin Mary up there? Right.
Yeah, exactly. So she was exotic and she was
Yes.
beautiful. And so, you know, this is how these things happen. It's like the deities come and grab you before you even, they're there before you even are looking for them, right?
Right. Right.
So eventually, and I became, you know, through art, I think, as a way in, I became very interested because of my love of Eastern art, and that and religious art, became more and more interested in the ideas and the philosophies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was always very intrigued with Eastern art.
Hmm.
So fast forward to 1999, I started practicing yoga.
Okay.
And which again was the way I found yoga. Uh, the, where my husband and I had our business in Cohasset, there were two buildings within the property of these, you know, this mini mall, and there was a yoga studio in the other building, which I drove past, you know, 500 times.
Countless times.
Times, right? Then I happened to be at a party where I had done some painting work for a friend, and Mary Norton, who owned Cohasset Yoga at the time, and who's my first and most wonderful yoga teacher, was at that party. And she came up to me. I had no idea who she was. And
Right.
she just kind of put her arm in mine. She goes, I think you need to do some yoga. And I'm like, what?
Who knew?
Who are you? She goes, yeah, at that yoga studio in Cohasset. I was like, oh, you're like right across the parking lot from where my current studio
Right.
space is. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I think I'll try that. That sounds great. So anyway, there she was. It was right there, and I started, you know, doing this yoga practice, and it probably took me 5 or 6 years. I started getting into different kinds of yoga and meditational, yin yoga, which is more meditational.
Right.
And through that, I started to be interested in Sanskrit
Ooh.
and in the language, the ancient language of Sanskrit. You
Right.
know, because when we do our yoga practices, we chant our Om at the beginning, and
Right.
certain things, you know, it was all cooking. And I became interested in that. I did some research on the internet and I found a teacher who I connected with very
Wow.
strongly, who wrote Thomas Ashley Farrand, and he wrote books on Sanskrit mantra. I, you know, got the book, I got the CD. It was one of those, the minute I heard his voice, I'm like, bam, this guy is my teacher. You know, I'm really, really digging this. Well, doesn't he come to my yoga studio 2, 3 years later
Wow.
and to do a workshop? Now, this guy's from Portland, Oregon,
Right.
at the time, living, you know, on the West Coast, and through another connection, he's coming to Cohasset and he's doing a weekend workshop in July of 2009.
Across the parking lot from you.
Across the parking lot. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh.
So, and up until this time, I had started doing a practice where when I was learning these, the mantras, I started writing them down, because in order to memorize, it was easier for me with visualization and with making my hand actually write the words.
The artist that you are. Yeah.
The artist that I am. So at this point, I've been doing for a couple of years, I had been doing this practice. And of course, as I was doing that, I started to want to make them pretty. and
Yes.
artistic. And so I did this whole practice where I would write and then turn the book and then write this way and then maybe to some images. And so I'd been really working with this for a few years before I actually met this person in the flesh, which was quite remarkable and sort of, inclined my path forward even more.
Right.
He passed away in 2010, so I only met him twice in the physical, which was, again, such a gift.
Right.
But led me into a whole lineage and a group of people and more sound and song and ways of meditating and doing all these practices.
Right.
So um, at this point now, it's like, a lot of what I'm doing is sort of spiritually oriented.
Right.
And it really started happening for me then that I started working with that. And basically what happens in the simple explanation of that, of the practice of working with that language, that's an energy-based language.
Yes.
So it's vibrational, so by saying it, speaking it, and writing it is an actual practice. It's called Lakita Japa, which I found out later. And I'd already been doing it, naturally. So so now you're creating a vibrational field around the pieces that you're making.
Right.
Very intriguing and wonderful. So fast forward some more. I started working with a friend of mine, Marnie Bacon, who's a yoga teacher, spiritual person in Marshfield.
Okay.
And we sang together. We started singing mantras together. Our voices were great together. We really jived. And so we did a number of programs with singing and chanting and education, stuff like that. And so we recently have, I'm in kind of a yoga band now.
Who knew there was such a thing?
No, but there is. And I'm part of a yoga band. So she invited us some of her friends to attend a retreat out in the Berkshires last summer. And she just had this idea like, hey, you guys come, Joe is a musician, Alex is a music person. I work with the bowls, with the Tibetan bowls.
Right.
And we sing together. Let's just have some sound behind the yoga.
Right.
So we just all landed there and it was born, and we just did 4 days of this beautiful sound yoga thing. And it was like, wow, people loved it.
Right.
And so we have gone on, we're doing a monthly program called Elevate, which we've sort of been cut off from now for a while, but you can, on my Facebook page, there's a posting from at the beginning of March where we did a beautiful Davy prayer together. So people can check that out to see what that sounds and feels like.
Right. Right.
So that has been, for me, an amazing experience to be part of a group like that and do that work. Really cool.
Yeah,
So,
it's like that finding your tribe
right.
thing. Yeah. And you've had a lot of, this story is really lovely, but there have been times in your life when things weren't quite so lovely. And, so you found this to be, this whole journey of, exploration of your art, and then exploration of your talents, and then the spiritual connection all sort of bring you to like this, I don't know, I'm doing this thing like it's water, right? Water design, laughing water. Sort of just.
Well, yeah, I guess all things form us, right? And
Yeah.
the good, bad, and the ugly. So, yeah, in 2014, and there was an illness. My brother had a very serious illness in my family, and that kind of consumed us for a while. And then my mother got sick, and she was quite ill for about a year and a half, and she passed in October of 2016. And a month after that, my husband died very suddenly.
Yeah.
So it was like a trifecta that started in 2014. And it's been kind of an epic journey through all of that and up till now. So, it took me a couple of years to sort of be going forward again.
Finding your feet. It's like the rug gets pulled out,
Exactly. Yeah,
and that sense of, three important people in your life to leave.
right.
Two, one was sick, one was older, but then
Yeah.
your husband,
Yeah.
that was and it was like he was there one day,
Right.
and the next
Yeah.
day
Right.
he wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was definitely a tower moment there.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's been quite a process to work through and, deal with in all many ways, and that will never end.
Right.
So that's when I moved my studio to Rockland. And so I've been sort of establishing that. When I got there, I actually made another move within the building a year later to a better space. But so anyway, I'm very familiar with the whole thing going, okay.
Right. And yet through that process, your art, your spirituality, your friends,
Right.
right,
Oh, yeah.
have helped to,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like, I wouldn't call it a soft landing, but certainly
Oh, it could have been
much, yes, much,
And I ended up being able to move upstairs to in the same house where we lived, but I had the opportunity to move upstairs to I got a major upgrade in living space and the view of a lifetime, which, I'm sorry, that goes a long way with healing to be able to have.
the ocean at your,
Yeah, exactly.
and you're a Cancer.
Yeah.
So it
I'm
becomes,
a double Cancer.
yeah.
Cancer.
And you've ascended up the
I ascended
the top.
I call it Sky Temple.
I love it. I
That's
love
what
it.
it feels like. So, yeah, so it's been so many wonderful things have happened. So the connection though to what we're all experiencing now,
Right.
as said, is we all got tipped over and we're like, okay, what happened? One day it was this and the next day it's that. So I feel I have two mindsets with that. And one of them, of course, is like, okay, well, I've been through this a lot. So, okay, I'm familiar. And the other part of me is like, really? Seriously? But you'll find this interesting, Vic. I actually have an exhibit in Cambridge that I installed on January 12th and 13th. And you know what date, what happened on that date. That was the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And I was really aware of it as I was doing it. I'm like, I have no idea how this is going to play out, but something's going to happen with this, right?
Right.
So
there was an eclipse as well. It was this, yeah.
Right. So it was up for a month. I had 3 events scheduled within that, and we had one of them, and then it all got closed off. So all that work is now just locked up in a room, sitting in Cambridge. So
waiting for its reopening.
Whatever the next move is, I don't know. Maybe when Pluto goes retrograde, something will shift. But
that's Sunday, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of right.
It's coming.
So, and I was tomorrow I was supposed to be getting on a plane and going on vacation, and that's, not happening. I mean, everybody's lives got impacted with it. And I think that adds to the air of unreality for us, right? It's like, you can't even be disappointed, really. It's just, that was a different timeline, and now we're in a new one, and that's not going to be happening right now. So
Right. It's a collective shift
yeah,
in our consciousness
right.
and our perspective and our paradigm. We've talked about, you and I and other people have talked about this great paradigm shift that we're waiting for. Well, it's here.
Right.
It's here. And what we do with it now and what we create now is going to move us forward into the next sort of level that
Right.
we're all experiencing. So one of the things that that's dear to your heart is the idea of uh, art as therapy. And I have always found this fascinating ever since I read um, that book by he was a surgeon. And he did cancer. Oh, what was he? You, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
It was,
you're talking about, yeah.
he would let he let the people draw pictures of what they thought their cancer therapy was going to be. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I think it was like Silverman or something like that, but it's probably not. But he was out of Connecticut, and I remember reading the book and looking at, and people who had their picture, he said, draw a picture of you getting chemotherapy. Some people it was like angels and fairies flying, and other people it was like poison and this, that, and the other thing. So he utilized art to see where the patient's sort of mind was at. That was the first time I ever like connected art with therapy. And I'm a healer, I imagine, and but I'm also an artist. But of course, I did not. I know you were raised by Italians. I was raised by Italians. My Italians said, "You'll never make a. You'll never make a. You can't be an artist. There's no way. You're gonna be starving. You got to have something you're gonna do. Be a doctor." So I was a doctor, so I became a doctor. But I've always done art. I've always drawn. I do stained glass work, or have. I haven't done it in a while. So, I've always sort of been artistically inclined, but I wasn't lucky enough to actually, well, I guess that wasn't my path, but I didn't actually know where I'm going with this. I got like all into my New Jersey. But so what about art as therapy? So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
that's
okay.
a great topic. And I have in the past, along the way, run some workshops and classes that, work with some particular techniques of doing a little meditation, and then going down in creating a book journal. I called it Heart, Mind, Words, Art. And so people would come and saying, and everybody always does this, right? I'm not an artist. I can't do that. It's not my blah, blah, blah. So basically the process was kind of getting a little bit quiet, going inside and doing some work there, and then giving them the materials. And by sort of a lot of cutting and pasting and collage and markers and, great stuff, and you start putting this stuff in your book, and then at the end of it, that you can't get people to stop, because they, it's like if you get to a certain place, you go back into that, like when you're 5 and you're in kindergarten, and you're free. It's just a fun, it's process, it's playing, it's experimentation, and you're trusting it, and you don't feel judged, and nobody's giving you a grade. It's just a process. So I've worked with it that way. And one of my ideas for going forward, and I'll say this is a seed going out into the universe, is I have an idea to do maybe like a consultation practice with people, to work with them one-on-one, to develop, to be the seed spark of new ideas for them. So almost like what did I call it? I've been writing down a lot of ideas for this, like a creative facilitator. So helping people create at the seed stage of an idea. And I'll tell you a little story, short story of a friend who last summer said to me, you know, I'm doing this book. I have this idea for a book and I need a cover and I don't really know what to do. And we were in the studio and I asked him some questions and I said, well, do you have any idea, any vision? And he said, well, you know, we used to cover our books in school with those paper bags. You know, we used to cut up paper bags. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah. So I got a paper bag and I crumpled it up and then I ironed it and I put it in front of him and I said, well, here's some markers. Why don't you just doodle on this thing, right?
Right.
So he did, and he came up with the most amazing image. And I looked at it and I was like, well, you just made your cover. That's pretty incredible. We can work with this and tweak it and, do this and do that. And he was very happy. And after that experience, I thought to myself, this would be really fun to do with people.
Yes.
I have an amazing studio space. I have an incredible art library. I have many, many, many supplies. And this could be really fun to have sort of a co-creative, and I mean at the seed stage of an idea.
Right.
When somebody is really at that very beginning place of trying to create something. It could be a book cover. It could be a home design. It could be anything you want that you're thinking of. And then you take that and you go to your graphic designer, your interior decorator, whoever, whatever. So I've been sort of thinking about this and thinking that it could be an interesting place to play with, to go.
I do like that. And the thought that came to my mind while you were describing the thing that you used to do with the writing and the drawing and the collage. Now I know you probably have a lot to do, so this is just something that came to me.
Yeah.
Is wouldn't it be great if you had a YouTube channel
Mm-hmm.
where you could actually walk people through the process,
Mm-hmm.
and just so to give them that sort of, and I think that, like, one of the things that I do with my YouTube channel, I feel like I do with my YouTube channel, is that I offer or I share my light with people, and it's for all intents and purposes free, right?
Yes.
But that does grow, like it's certainly grown my astrological practice,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's like that could be something
That's a great idea.
right. I just I mean, as you're telling me this story, I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And
Okay.
we're we can't come to your studio now,
Exactly, especially
right?
now.
I mean, I'm close. I mean,
Exactly.
an hour or less I'd be at your studio, except that we can't do it.
Right.
And I'm sure there are people all over from different places. I mean, I have people who watch from Australia, so they're not going to come to your studio.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
this is a way to sort of open that up for them and have it, and you can start your own sort of community. I'll be a member.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll be in. I'm in.
All right.
You know,
I'm liking that, Vic. I think
yeah.
that's
And this whole idea of seeds, of course, I'm the seeds of transformation, right? And so you're taking those seeds and you're watering them, right? But but this whole idea of seeds is because we're in such a new place, and seeds grow in the dark, right?
Mhm.
Seeds grow under the earth, and we don't always know what is going to manifest itself. But if we nurture the seed, beautiful things can happen. And I think there are a lot of people who both need a seed or have a seed that they haven't had time to nurture.
Exactly.
And I think this time in our evolution is a time to nurture that seed that
To our new life, because we're all having a new life.
Right.
And whether you realize it or not, we're all going there. We are there. And I agree. So yeah, I love that correlation. That's really fantastic.
yeah.
So yeah, I would love to be sharing that. And Back originally when I started doing this, I really, like a few of those workshops were sort of an attempt at being able to do that work and share it. And people were, some people are open to it, but I think now it's interesting how things come back around, and all of a sudden they've been in the dark long enough, and it's time for them to sprout, and this could be it. And I also, the other connection with the writing, and it doesn't matter what you write. When you hand write something, you are connecting to your heart.
That's right.
That's the virtue of that. So, you can type on the computer and keep notes that way, but handwriting, I think, is really a better way to really connect with your soul.
Yes.
As an expression of your soul. It can be and you don't have to have perfect handwriting. You don't have to do the Palmer method. It's not about that.
Right.
I'll show you really quickly, just so that you can see one of the things that I did with this. And this was back from the original days at the beginning. And in this book, it was dark paper, and I was working with a white pen. So what this is this was March 20th, 2008, full moon vernal equinox, honoring the moon. So this was a mantra to the energy of that moon. So I wrote down this way, I turned the book and I wrote it this way, so it becomes like a weaving, and then I did this circular moon. That's all writing.
Oh my
So
God.
you look at this, you can't decipher necessarily a word. It doesn't matter. It's your own imprint that matters. And that's the fun of it too, is that you get to see this beautiful pattern that kind of emerges, and just by writing. And I've done ones where you keep your eyes closed and you write, and just so many ways that you can expand this practice, and it can be really beautiful. One of the most involved ones that I did, and it's actually hanging in the show in Cambridge now, was it's a piece of rice paper, maybe 18 inches tall by this wide. And I was using colored ballpoint pens, and I went down and did the whole thing, and then I turned it. So anyway, I ended up covering this thing 7 times.
Wow.
And so it's literally like this woven, and they were all different colors, and so this beautiful woven texture. Interesting thing about it, I used just ballpoint pen, and it's now fading, and it's distinctly but this is the beauty of it. This is a lesson in attachment,
Right.
and it's slowly fading away. And I did do some color copies when it was fresh. I just was looking at them the other day. I was like, wow, it was so vibrant. And now it's just slowly fading and disappearing into the universe. So anyway, that's just one of many, one of millions of projects. The one other thing I did want to mention too, this year I started creating a set of oracle cards, which they're coming. They're coming. Those came to me in August, like boom, downloaded, there they are. That's also one of the exhibits I have. One of the pieces I have in the exhibit in Cambridge is I have the most current ones up. But what I did, and I think you'll enjoy this, Vic, is I've got a couple of them here. I just wanted a set of my own cards, right?
Right.
So I took index cards, the index cards with the lines on the back.
Right. Yep.
So non-precious materials.
Yes.
And I did these drawings. I'll show you a few of them. This is the dream horse. This is the dolphin.
Wow.
The river of time. The stick people. And this is the medicine man. He's a mantis that I had a dream about. So anyway, they all come to me in various different ways. So I just drew them on these cards. I turned it over. I did this rubber stamp, and I laminated them. And boom, I have a set of 44 oracle cards.
So
I've been-
you can even do that, like make your own oracle cards.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this.
So I'm all about the make it for yourself first. You know, you can always get more elaborate and refine it. But it's the seed. These are the seeds.
Right.
You know, that you don't labor over too hard. You just let it come and let it happen. And
Right.
so anyway, stay tuned for that, because those are happening as we speak.
I am so excited.
So as I mentioned to you at the beginning, I did a mask series
Yes.
back in 1991. And I just was thinking about them the other day because of obviously what we're going through, and everybody's
Having
making
to wear
all these
masks.
creative masks and stuff. I was like, I'm going to pull those masks out. So as a fun treat, I brought them here, and I will, let's see, there's about 8 of them.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's good because this is the 8th show.
There you go. All right. So hold on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Here we go. Number 1.
Oh man.
This one is the poet. Now, I do have names for all of them, and honestly, I can't even remember what they are. I have to look it up, but I'll just show them to you quickly. They're all the same shape and the same size, but they have a different personality. And I have no idea where these came from, but okay, I remember this one. This one is the thief.
Wow. That's powerful, honey. That is
Yeah,
powerful.
these are pretty incredible.
Wow. That looks like the cardinal to me.
Hmm.
Like the religious cardinal.
Yeah. But they're all, they're kind of mystical. They have these third eyes that are all doing these weird.
Yeah, 3rd, 4th, and 5th eyes, I see.
Lots of eyes. Okay, here's our final one. This is Sky Man.
Of course, I love that one.
And then for my final mask showing, this is a Buddha mask that I made with some Tibetan kids a few years ago. I was working with a group, and we made these Buddha masks out of paper plates.
Wow.
And I printed the ears, so we tacked them on, and then we did different little, feathers and dingle dangles and earrings off of Buddha's ears. And this one has the great Mani, Om Mani Padme Hung, which is the Tibetan mantra of compassion written on it. So he wanted to come and say hi too.
Oh.
So again, really non-precious materials sometimes create the best ideas. My best drawings, I swear, are on Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes because it's not precious. You don't get caught in the, oh my God, this is an incredibly expensive piece of paper. What if I mess it up?
I know. That's, because even with when I would do stained glass, some glasses are a lot more expensive than others. And it's that first score and then that first cut,
right,
where you just pray that it goes in the right direction. And sometimes it doesn't, and then you make do with it. But I understand that fear of, oh my God, this is like a $25 piece of glass. I better get it right. But yeah. So yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. And you can take that, create that, and then if you decide you want to make it in something that's more long lasting or whatever, precious, you can. And it's just a way to free up your creativity, which I think is
I love that. Deb, this has been fantabulous. I have
Yeah,
really
thank
enjoyed
you.
this.
Thank you. And I was thinking that maybe for our closing, if you would like, I can do a little oming with one of my bowls.
I would
And
love that.
closing. All right, I'm gonna turn up my. This is one of my. This is in the tone of F, which is the heart, tone of the heart. So I thought that would be a nice tone for us to listen to. So, little ending meditation. Just taking that sound.
Thank you so much, Deb. That was beautiful. Perfect way to end. Namaste.
Namaste. See you all soon. Take care. Say bye-bye.
Bye bye.